This is Charter Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in the Inland Empire today. We are joined by none other than Virginia Blumenthal. She is the president of the Riverside Community College District. And this year, RCCD, I guess, RCCD is celebrating its 100th anniversary. 50 years ago, what happened?
50 years ago, I started at RCC as a student.
Which is stunning in its breadth and scope, and the connection between you and RCC runs so incredibly deep.
It does very much.
Tell me about RCC when it first started. And I want to get to when you were there, but what can you tell us about the early days of RCC?
The early days of RCC, they actually started in 1916. And it was probably about, I think I read about 150 students that started there.
Where?
Where it's located now.
Oh, really? Okay.
Where it's located now, which is directly across the street from what used to be Old Poly High School.
And there's relevance to that. We'll get to that in a
Yes.
little while. So back then, 100 years ago, what were community colleges? Do you have a sense?
Yes, they were junior colleges,
Okay.
and they were basically, the opinion of them was that they were continuations of high school. Because you couldn't go anyplace else.
Because you couldn't afford, couldn't get into a four-year?
Or all of the above.
Right, so it's hard to really kind of...
It is. Although RCC, Riverside City College, has always been highly respected and one of the top in its field of community colleges.
Right, and I've known that. And when a lot of colleges were really struggling in the last decade, RCC did not.
Justice Gabbard, who passed away here a few years ago at 106 years old, was a graduate of RCC and was on the very first debate team.
Wow.
He graduated there in June of 1929.
So one of the early classes, indeed.
Absolutely.
Was he a Justice, Court of Appeals, Supreme Court?
Just Court of Appeals.
And another graduate, her name is Virginia Blumenthal.
That's correct.
Who graduated RCC in 1968.
Correct.
With an associate's. You were recently named top 100 trial lawyer in the country.
That's correct.
So clearly RCC, at least with regard to two of you, doing not so bad. Not so bad.
Oh, we have a lot of graduates from RCC. We have race car drivers. We have, we've got a lot of athletes who have gone through there.
Nice, nice.
If you take a look at some of our star players, well, from Riverside, when you talk about the Bonds family, when you talk about Cheryl Miller, who played at Poly High School, when you talk, oh no, there's a lot of connections that are there.
So let's fast forward to the mid-60s. A lot of changes going on. Explain what happened with governance in the mid-60s.
Before 1964, community colleges, then called junior colleges really, were a part of the K through 14 system.
I see.
They did not have their own governing boards or anything.
So when one was elected to a school board, if you're elected to Riverside USD, that included,
that's correct.
Back then,
that is correct.
The community college.
In 1964, they separated the systems, and then the community colleges had their own governing boards and board of trustees.
Why?
Because they were making them colleges as they should have been, and they couldn't get recognized as colleges, and this is the way they had to break away from the system to do it.
I see. So right around that time, you are a high school student at
correct.
Poly.
That's correct.
And as you said, the old Poly High School's across the street.
Right across Terracina, which is the street that divides the college campus right now.
Okay.
And that divided Poly High School and Riverside City College. And you were not to cross that street if you were a high school student.
Really?
Yes.
And why is that?
Verboten, because you were supposed to stay on the high school campus.
Why
you were
is
not
that?
to go on the college campus.
Was it college boys that were on the other side of that street?
Well, let's just say we girls kind of obeyed the rules. We for most of the day. But we would put our makeup in our purses and would hide in the restroom until everybody had gone away, and we'd run across the street
to meet
and
college
go down
boys.
to the pit to meet the college guys. Absolutely.
Oh, God. So did RCC wind up taking over Old Poly?
Yes. Well, they tore Old Poly down. RCC took over all the grounds of it.
I see.
And in fact, it still has the Poly High School Administration building they're still using as part of their student center.
So let's talk about upon your graduation, late 60s, early 70s.
I graduated 68 from
right.
college,
So
from RCC.
So what's happening then? I mean, 70s, 80s, 90s, Riverside is starting to really grow.
Absolutely.
And so give us a sense of RCC.
There was a complete difference with RCC even by the time I went there. First off, we had 3 years in a row of being state champions in basketball.
Interesting.
But it was being highly respected. There was no problem with transferring to units as there had been previously. I actually transferred 70 units.
So before the separation, as an example, it was hard to get those units.
It was harder to get
interesting.
The units transferred.
Right, and you end up going to CSUN, you got a bachelor's, you got a master's, you got
That's
a law
correct.
degree later, so it's all good. And so keep going.
I was a math major when I first started at RCC until I met Dr. Dina Stallings, who was the first woman PhDer and full professor at RCC. And she got her hands on me, which is why I'm now an attorney with all the things that she taught me.
Interesting.
She changed my whole life, and she was the professor at RCC.
And it can be just one person that
Absolutely.
can do that. And there's no doubt about it.
And
So
we didn't get along that well either. We butted heads.
were you very similar? Is that why?
No, she just wanted me to do things different than what I wanted them to. So
how did RCC grow through the 70s, 80s, 90s, and then into this decade or century when it opened 2 other campuses?
That's correct. It based it on excellence. It based it on doing what was right, promoting diversity, promoting women, that type of thing. With most of our professors, they started making it not mandatory, but they highly encouraged them to get their PhDs.
I see.
And then they started, our School of Nursing started many years ago. I think something like 50, 60 years ago. We have one of the top nursing programs in the nation.
That is true.
And even now, and has been for a significant time period, all of our professors either have their PhDs or are PhD ready in the nursing program.
So what was it about 25 years ago RCCD chose to start 2 new campuses? At that point,
That's correct.
They were still satellites?
Yes, they were campuses.
Tell us about those 2.
Okay, Moreno Valley and Corona. It was decided.
Norco. Was it Corona?
I'm sorry,
Norco.
not Corona.
Yeah.
Norco,
Okay,
thank you.
sure.
They had decided to develop campuses on each of those
Why?
2 areas to service the students in those areas and to have a different emphasis on certain types of careers. And we had those up until 5 years ago because they're celebrating their 25th birthday.
Right.
The same year that that RCC is celebrating its 100th.
But 5 years ago, what happened?
5 years ago, they received full accreditation and became Community College number 111 and 112.
Why?
Because we wanted them to have their own identity, where our students can go to any one of those colleges and the courses like English 1A would be the same, and they can get whatever is available.
So now they're encapsulated.
That's
Norco
correct.
is its own.
That is correct.
And so it will offer its full panoply of courses.
That's
It's not
correct.
as if you have to, but is it easy for students in one to take classes at
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, that's one thing we promote.
And so this is the 100th year.
100th year.
Tell us about the celebration that's going on.
Well, it's been amazing. For example, we just celebrated our centennial homecoming game.
Right.
And we played Chaffey College, who are also celebrating their 100th, and we beat them.
But that's interesting. Chaffey,
that's correct.
San Bernardino County, right?
Yes.
So what was going on in the Inland Empire that 2 community colleges are starting 100 years ago?
This whole area was developing at that time.
Yeah, so.
When you take a look at the area, you take a look at the Gage Canal, you take a look at our citrus industry,
Right.
and that's this
So
entire
something,
area.
right.
So it was really growing, and there was always an emphasis on education.
So what do you see happening to RCC and RCCD over the next 100 years?
I think that it's going to be getting bigger and better, so to
Right.
speak. I think we will start offering, and it will eventually get to the point that they will allow us to offer bachelor's degrees in a
Right.
limited area.
Which we know that's happened.
Yes.
There's a pilot program, 15 schools. We
Correct.
know about that.
And I think that will happen, not that it will ever lose its vision.
Sure.
I don't ever want them to lose the workforce development
Right.
view that we have, because we're very important in that area. We help to turn the economies around. And I think it's just going to be servicing more and more students. And some of the things that we have, like the downtown area with the Coyle School of the Arts, that is an amazing, amazing development.
Who would have thunk 50 years ago when you
That's
walked
correct.
on the campus that you would become the president of the Riverside Community College District? I
Never would have
congratulate
crossed
you,
my
and I
brain.
congratulate RCC, RCCD. Her name is Virginia Blumenthal. She is the president of the Riverside Community College Board. My name is Brad Pomerance. This is Charter Local Edition.